Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome to a film theory reaction. And, there's something definitely weird going on, because this film theory came out before the game theory. So, I've been watching, game and film theory for years at this point, and I've been doing reaction to them for, quite a while as well. And honestly, never has the film theory come out before the game theory. So there's obviously some sort of weird scheduling shenanigans going on behind the scenes. But, all that aside, the actual video itself, this is, will the Fantastic Four save the MCU or end it? Yeah, so the new Fantastic Four movie, the trailer itself looked really good. Though, when I first watched it, I was very confused how it was supposed to work, like, in the MCU, given that, the whole thing seemed to be, like, depicting, like, retro, futuristic 60s tech with, like, the way they dressed and the way everything was designed and, like, decorated and stuff like that, which, ironically, I really love that set direction. But then I learned that apparently it's not part of the main MCU. It's, part of the multiverse, which, this might be, I'll have to wait until some reviews start coming out to see what people say, but I'm being hopeful in that so far, this looks like the first MCU movie I'm going to actually go out and watch since Endgame Part 2. And then, on top of that, you have the whole thing where it seems that, like, Galactus is going to be in the movie, like, proper, actual Galactus, not, weird cloud thing that was in, like, the first one they did in, like, the 2000s. But save the MCU or end it? So, I'm trying to think. I can think of that going in, like, one of two directions. Saving it or ending it? I could see that as being, either, saving it as in, breathing new life into MCU, kind of stepping back and, like, having not every, like, superhero movie be, like, part of the same cinematic universe again, which, I kind of do miss that when, before you had all, like, the baggage and history that was with the movies, and, all the other shows that the MCU was tacked onto it as well. But end it also. You could also do that same direction with it ending, because, like, depending on how this goes, maybe this could be the end of the MCU, where they stop making movies in the shared universe. As I've said before, the last MCU movie I actually enjoyed watching was Black Panther, and the last one I watched was Endgame Part 2. Granted, there's a lot of history that would be kind of put to the wayside, but at the same time, like, I can't help but feel that at this point, the MCU is just so huge and bloated that maybe just a reboot could potentially be good, or just, push off to the side, just put, like, a good bookend to close off that chapter. So, yeah, we're gonna have to see what, they think about on the video. So, yeah, of course, as always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my game theory reaction. And if you like this video or any other video that I make, I would very much appreciate it if you gave the video a like and subscribe to my channel. All those little things help my channel in the algorithm, because I'm really hoping to hit, 5,000 subscribers at some point during the year, hopefully. But yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we?
The new trailer for Fantastic Four First Steps just dropped, and after looking at it frame by frame, by examining all of the marketing material around this movie and everything Marvel has set up for the future of their franchise, I think this trailer tells us that the Fantastic Four are going to save the MCU by ending it. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, the show where the thing we want to be is your rock. Oh, sorry, was that pun a bit of a stretch? I couldn't see it at first, but I thought it was fire.
Boo!
Sorry, not sorry. The bad puns are making me feel fantastic.
Say that again?
Anyway, welcome back to Romance Month. Yeah, every week in February.
Oh right, I keep forgetting that's what the theme of this month's videos are, right?
Of love. So, fun fact, this time slot was originally going to be for a Captain America theory, talking about how Marvel is finally addressing the giant celestial in the ocean and how that would have impacted the MCU. It was classic old school theorist stuff. We do a lot of math and science in our shorts, by the way, if you want to go binge those. That was the one that was going to be a bit of a stretch to fit. It was going to be about a celestial getting born, so it kinda, sorta fit, if you like squinted at it. But then Marvel dropped the first trailer for their big summer blockbuster, Fantastic Four: First Steps, and well, I mean, it's a movie about love and family. It just fits better. Anyway, like I mentioned, Marvel released the new trailer for Fantastic Four on February 4th. F4? I see what you did there. And honestly, I really liked it. I always try to keep a level head with trailers. I've been burned far too many times by misleading ones, but on the face of things, there's color, character, it's a period piece, the cast is stacked, and don't think I didn't notice that reference to the bear, cousin.
Okay, is this guy good or what?
But on top of just looking and feeling different, this trailer made me excited because, honestly, for the first time in ages, it actually feels like Marvel is progressing the story of their franchise with something meaningful. And that's what I want to talk about today, loyal theorists. See, I think hidden inside of this trailer for the Fantastic Four reboot and all of the marketing around it, Marvel has not only laid out the plot for this upcoming movie, but taken their true first steps toward the biggest change they could possibly make. A real, honest-to-God reboot. And this could be the thing that saves the MCU, or could spell its doom. But actually for real this time. Get your super suits ready, friends. Let's rock it into this. First things first, let's get on the same page about what this movie is and isn't. One of the big things really nailed down by this first teaser is that this is not an origin story movie, which, honestly, thank God. We've done origin stories to death, and we don't need them for every single reboot.
Yeah, God, that's the thing. Like, I mean, of course you have the two main, or quote-unquote modern, origin movies for the Fantastic Four, but even then, I think I did, like, a really low-budget one in, like, was it the 70s or the early 80s, just so they could keep, the movie rights or something like that? I honestly can't remember.
Imagine we'll get the spark notes of things before moving on into the story proper. Short version, the Fantastic Four consist of genius super scientist Reed Richards, whose body is elastic, his best friend, pilot Ben Grimm, whose body transforms into an organic rock with super strength and durability, Reed's wife, Susan Storm, who can manipulate light and turn herself invisible and create force fields, and Susan's brother, Johnny Storm, who can engulf his body in flame, fly, and shoot fireballs. The four got their powers after going up into space and being hit with cosmic rays and radiation, and embraced being public superheroes and celebrities when they came back. We are almost certainly getting this exact origin for these characters too. In a live stream leading up to the trailer dropping, there was Morse code hidden in the broadcast that translates to radiation. Shoutouts to Reddit user What No Way Impossible for being the first person I saw decipher that one. So the comic Fantastic Four were a big deal because they were the origin point for so many huge aspects of the Marvel Universe. Wakanda, Black Panther, Galactus, the Watcher, the Inhumans, and of course, Doctor Doom. But despite being the first family of Marvel Comics, the team that launched the modern version of the publisher and created the Marvel Universe we know and love, their movies haven't really hit the mark. Yeah, these felt like peak we feel embarrassed by our source material in the same way that the Sony Spider-Man villain movies did, and man, just no thank you. But this movie, it's leaning into that comic book source material and wearing it with pride. The four are definitely explorers and celebrities and superheroes in this universe. The Thing looks like The Thing instead of a generic Rockman monster. The costumes are colorful and bright and very goofy, but embracing that. The team has their ridiculous robot sidekick Herbie, and it even looks like a villain named Ivan Kragoff, aka the Red Ghost, is set to appear. And his whole thing is that he's a Soviet mad scientist who can walk through walls and has evil monkey henchmen. That's just peak 60s sci-fi, and it's ridiculous, and if the rumors are true, he won't even be the only one of these throwback villains. There's a real possibility that we're gonna get a live-action Mole Man, people. The Underminer would be proud.
Okay, interesting. I mean, as I've said before, I'm not the biggest comics fan. Like, the vast majority of all the comic stuff I know of is from videos I've seen online from Linkara and other sources like that. So I mean, the fact that they're bringing all the goofy stuff and not trying to serious it up or make it dark and oh god, I love that. I mean, that's part of the thing. like, that's part of the reason, like, comic books, just from everything I've seen, are so good, because they can be so weird, and they can take themselves so deadly seriously, just without, like, turning down the weirdness of it.
But perhaps the biggest way it's leaning into that source material? I mean, just look at the setting. This is clearly a period piece.
Yeah.
Just like Captain America: The First Avenger was a World War II movie, this Fantastic Four movie clearly takes place in the past, specifically the early 1960s. But it's not our 1960s, or even the 1960s of the MCU. No, instead, this is its own universe, leaning into the idea of retrofuturism, or Disney's Tomorrowland. This is a world that looks and acts a lot like what the past thought the future would be. This advancement in tech is almost certainly thanks to the big brains of characters like Mr. Fantastic, who were able to build super advanced robots and spaceships and skyscrapers and supersuits and jet-powered cars. But not cameras, TVs, and radios. Those are all still pretty retro and analog. I kind of love that quirk, being real. One thing...
I mean, yeah, I know. I mean, like, the whole thing with, like, TVs being realistically the only piece of technology that's getting less expensive as time goes on for getting more and more TV. At the same time, I always have, you know, a soft spot for, like, brass and wood and, like, I mean, as I've said before, if I design, like, anything like futuristic or high tech or anything like that, I'm designing it with a similar, like, aesthetic to, like, World War II tanks, where they're like giant, where they're like big, heavily built giant plates of iron and steel and stuff like that, where you look like you could bang on it with a hammer for like an hour and it still would work perfectly.
But of course, you know us. We can dig a little deeper. I know I'm not the strokes of what music. Thanks for listening, and let's hop back into the Fantastic Four. So that's the broad strokes of what to expect, but of course, you know us. We can dig a little deeper. I know I'm not the first person to connect the dots of, hey, they're rebooting the Fantastic Four, and hey, Marvel just cast their most famous actor as the nemesis of the Fantastic Four. Yeah, I would be shocked if Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom doesn't show up in some way, shape, or form, especially to set up Doomsday. But I doubt that he's going to be the main villain. No, that will almost certainly be Galactus, one of the Marvel Universe's literal biggest bads. Yeah, that, and he basically casts a giant shadow over this teaser, telling us that we can relax, Marvel isn't gonna chicken out and replace him with a cloud this time. So if you don't know, Galactus is, well, he's complicated. He's an enormous cosmic space being who gets nourishment by chowing down on the life energy, and sometimes the actual matter of entire planets.
Which also, again, Galactus is actually one of those characters I do know a little bit of the history of, at least, you know, his character history. And who he is he's actually a scientist who survived the end of the previous universe, and now because he kind of existed in that state between his old universe and the rebirth of the new universe, he kind of got all these powers. And the reason why he's absolutely gigantic is because apparently the old universe was a lot bigger. I mean, who knows?
With the residents of said planet given very little time to evacuate or make peace with Armageddon. But of course, as one of the oldest concepts in the Marvel Universe, his backstory has gotten, well, weirder over the years, to say the least. Yeah, apparently he was a being from a previous multiverse that collapsed and is the only survivor that made it to the current multiverse. He was transformed into a world-eating powerhouse and now roams the universe looking for planets and life to consume, led by his herald, usually the Silver Surfer, who we also know is in this movie thanks to casting.
Wait, really?
God, okay. The thing that transformed Galactus into his current planet monster status was cosmic rays, just like the Fantastic Four were given their powers. Seeing the parallels here? The conflict there is just served up on a silver platter for us, and it even fits with the source material they're pulling from. And we know exactly the sorts of stories that inspired this film. Yeah, when Marvel released their very first promotional material for this film, they linked to a page on their website. Seems pretty normal so far, but when you clicked that link, it didn't take you to an ad or information about the movie. Instead, it took you to an error page. That's weird, right? Well, this was actually a sort of mini ARG. See on Herbie the Robot here? There's a QR code very blatantly slapped on his side. Scan that in and it takes you to this page, which is the real website advertising the film. It's fun and a small puzzle that makes you feel a bit smarter for participating. But why am I bringing it up? Well, there are 5 comic books linked here on this page that Marvel recommended you read to prepare for the upcoming movie. And they actually made them all available for free if you want to go check them out. Now,
Oh,
most
okay,
of them
that's
are
good.
really old-school Fantastic Four comics from the early 60s, introducing the team, Galactus, the Silver Surfer. It makes sense for this movie, but...
You know, I'm just looking at this old design for Galactus. I had no idea at one point in time he was green and red instead of purple. Honestly, while green is my favorite color, I will say that the purple does look a lot better on him.
One of them stands out. It's the first issue of a story called Fantastic Four Life Story, a retelling of their origin with more modern art and writing. This book actually has a really cool concept. You know how characters never seem to age in Marvel because it's all on a sliding time scale? This imagined, well, what if the characters did age from the 60s onward? It's fun stuff. Anyway, that's just a fun little aside, but the real reason this book stands out...
Actually, I think DC also did something similar to that. Where the early I'm forgetting what it was called, but the first issues were set in the 40s and stuff when, you know, Superman and Batman were first released, and then as they go on, the art style of the comic slightly changes as they grow older and stuff like that because, you know, time and the art style of comics actually changed.
Well, Galactus doesn't actually show up in the book until much, much later on. But Reed is given a vision of Galactus by the same cosmic rays that give the Fantastic Four their powers. And over the years, he becomes sort of obsessed with finding a way to stop Galactus. That could very well be what we see happening here in this Fantastic Four trailer, and why Reed is furiously scribbling away on his chalkboard trying to solve some problem. That problem could be the oncoming Galactus, something he foresaw in visions. Perhaps those shots of Galactus looming over New York? And that is then confirmed by the arrival of his herald, the Silver Surfer. And the answer to those problems? Well, it might lie somewhere out there in the multiverse. Yeah, okay, let out your beleaguered sigh of frustration, believe
the
me,
multiverse
Like we
again.
mentioned before, this is indeed a multiverse story since it takes place in a different universe. But honestly, this is what I think the multiverse should have been used for. This is a completely different era and vibe, not just a less good version of a story we've already heard, or the MCU with the saturation cranked up. Anyway, they're not shying away from the multiverse in this film or its marketing. Obviously, there's the whole alternate universe, retro sci-fi aesthetic, but there's also this shot from the trailer, the one with Reed working on his chalkboard. You can see something right behind him labeled alternate universe. And on top of that, there was actually another teaser trailer released well before this one at the D23 Expo in 2024. This one was never publicly released, but according to descriptions and leaks of it, it included a scene where Reed was talking to school children about the possibility of other dimensions existing. So, putting all of those pieces together, Galactus, the survivor of a previous multiverse, is likely the main villain here. Reed is doing a lot of research into the multiverse and alternate dimensions looking for a solution, and if this film is really taking cues from Fantastic Four Life Story, he's terrified of Galactus and what it could mean for his world and his family. And the cherry on top here? Well, the film's official synopsis reads that if Galactus's plan to devour the entire planet and everyone on it weren't bad enough, it suddenly gets very personal. Personal how? Well, believe it or not, this ties everything together perfectly. And we have the answer to this thanks to frickin' Good Morning America of all sources.
There's also, I think, a rumor that she may, in some case, be a mom.
You'll have to wait and see.
See, First Steps is not only referring to the first steps of exploration into outer space or in other worlds, like with the space age, space race theming that the film is clearly trying to evoke.
Literal first steps as in a child's first steps. Of course. Oh god, wait a second. So now I'm thinking about it again. What I know a little bit. If I remember correctly, I think their kid. I think he gets really stupidly powerful powers or something like that. I can't remember. What is his name? I cannot remember for the life of me.
No, it's a double meaning that's also referring to the first steps taken by babies and their new parents. This question was not asked by the Disney-employed reporters of the Disney-owned ABC television network about one of the biggest Disney-owned film projects in the works this year by accident. These questions are vetted by the studio and approved beforehand, and this makes me wholeheartedly believe that either Reed and Sue will become parents in this movie, or that they already have a child, and this will be a huge part of the incoming stories of Avengers Doomsday Doomsday and Secret Wars. In the comics, Reed and Sue have 2 kids, Franklin and Valeria, who are both important characters with interesting stories, but today, I just want to focus...
Oh my god, seriously? Well, okay, so honestly, I love the idea that they have little jumpsuits that have 5 and 6 after, like, everyone else has, like, a 4 on. But, I mean, seriously, you couldn't have given them little jumpsuits with the 4s on them as well? I mean, come on. I mean, it's adorable, but it doesn't meet with the brand.
On Franklin. Why? Well, not only is he the older sibling and would be born first, so he's the one who's likely in this movie, but he's also, get this, a mutant. Well, I think. Still, they retcon this a lot because comics are confusing, but at the very least, he was a mutant for most of his history and was recently one. And not only that, but he's also what the comics call an Omega level mutant, up there with the likes of Magneto, Storm, Jean Grey, and the Scarlet Witch. Omega level mutants basically have no upper limit to their powers if they can harness them correctly, and their abilities more or less make them gods. Yeah, Franklin Richards is rubbing shoulders with the most powerful mutants in the multiverse, and what's more, even though most mutants have their powers activated during puberty, he's been that way since he was born. His telekinetic and reality-altering powers manifested before he could walk or speak. Now, this theory would get way too long and crazy if we tried to explain Franklin's whole entire deal in the comics, but the thing that's most important for us here today, he can rewrite the multiverse at will with his mind. Yeah, really. In the 90s, after the Avengers and Fantastic Four seemingly die in the regular Marvel continuity, a new, more extreme timeline called Heroes Reborn started, and it was eventually revealed that this was created by Franklin to keep his parents and their friends alive. Marvel has used Franklin as a Deus Ex middle schooler several other times throughout the years, but...
Deus Ex middle schooler, that's good. I love that. But, okay, so if his powers are literally that to rewrite the multiverse, I mean, that could literally use to fix all of the multiverse problems that, you know, the MCU's been having before. Okay, I mean, Deus Ex Machina right there. Hey, we didn't write this before. Let's have our character literally just change the rules. Okay, sure.
But the biggest and most recent example? Well, in 2016, this literal child was chosen as one of the powerful beings who got to reconstruct the multiverse in an event called, wait for it, Secret Wars. Yep, the very same Secret Wars that the upcoming Avengers movie is almost certainly based on. So here's where my head is at. Baby Franklin is going to be a big part of this movie, its story, and its conflict. Maybe Galactus senses the power of this child and wants to use him to restore his old multiverse. Maybe Reed is worried about the powers his kid is showing and searches for help somewhere in the multiverse. Maybe Franklin's multiversal powers are going to spark some sort of incursion that threatens this universe, setting up Doctor Doom to step up and try to save everything in Doomsday and Secret Wars. Maybe it's some combination of all of those things, and the Fantastic Four, specifically Reed Richards, are going to need to learn to grow and stretch themselves to solve the problem. That's a story. That works. And best of all, a story like this could be the thing that saves the Marvel Cinematic Universe by ending it. Yeah, I know, funny phrasing there, but I'm serious. I know we're all sick and tired of the multiverse stuff and might not love that it's probably getting crammed into this story, but this gives someone the opportunity to turn it off. Let me explain. I don't know if you've noticed, but Marvel has been setting up a lot of options here to do a sort of soft reboot of their multiverse for a while now. Some of them have been pretty obvious, others not so much. The Watcher from What If has been meddling in universes, and some of the stories in that show have been about recreating universes and starting from scratch. Loki and the TVA are now stewards of a great new multiverse, with new dimensions being born all the time, and old ones being rescued like we see in Deadpool and Wolverine. Kang the Conqueror and He Who Remains were themselves survivors of a multiversal war. Secret Wars is an adaptation of a story all about a multiversal reboot, and as we just talked about here, both Galactus and Franklin Richards have huge roles to play in similar reboot stories. Hell, believe it or not, even the Thunderbolts has a reboot card they could pull with a character called the Sentry. Go check out this short if you want more info about that crazy idea. Either way, the writing is on the wall here. Marvel and the rest of Hollywood massively miscalculated how much of an appetite audiences had for the multiverse as a concept. They're fun ways to get cool little side stories, or unimportant spin-offs, or occasional crossovers, but as a main driving narrative device? Oh god, please stop. But one thing I do think Marvel did account for, that they did calculate in, well, eventually, this multiverse story needs to end. And regardless of what you thought about about it so far, bad or good, the Multiverse Saga needs a strong ending. The Infinity Saga had one, and I mean a really strong one with Endgame, where it looked like a lot of torches were going to get passed. There was a strong potential start for the Multiverse Saga, even if it didn't pan out. And now, the Multiverse Saga itself has to pass the torch and set up future stories for success. And, I mean, Marvel has done a pretty good job of setting up multiple different levers they could pull here. Looking at things from a bird's eye view, this makes the most sense. It's the best case scenario to start fresh without copping out.
I mean, then again, you say that, and I mean, with some of the hit and misses they've had, I mean, things could still go very wrong. I mean, admittedly, they could also just pull an ultimate whammy and pull all of them at the same time. Oh god, how would that even work? Oof.
Something we've told them they have to do in previous theories, and the only missing piece has been how to do it. They can call on Franklin Richards to rewrite everything, or Doctor Doom to fix the multiverse in Secret Wars, or God of Stories Loki to pull some threads and create a new storyline for us to follow, or the Watcher to set things right and start over, or the Sentry to say things were different all along and we just didn't know it. Hell, they could even get Kevin from She-Hulk to restart everything if they really wanted to. Please don't do that. They can create a brand new world that's streamlined.
Definitely not.
You can keep what's working and toss what isn't. You can continue the stories of characters that people are invested in without throwing it all away, and start up new stories with new characters or new versions of characters that are gone. You can have mutants exist with all of their history, and the Fantastic Four and the X-Men have existed alongside the Avengers the whole time. With this film, Fantastic Four First Steps, Marvel may have just set up all of the pieces they need to save the MCU and make their stories truly special again. And I don't know about you, but I hope they can do it, because I want their movies to be fantastic. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. Up next.
Again, like, well, it's not just the MCU, but like, there has been like so many franchises and stuff like that that are like admittedly smaller ones where like the multiverse, like going into the multiverse for stories, again, as he said, like, in small doses, it is good. It can be used. It's nice. It's like spice. You can use it to add some flavor or something like that. But like, so many stories have like major multiverse like storylines, and it is so tiring. Honestly, again, I'm gonna have to see what people say. But if this Fantastic Four movie is actually good, I may definitely see it. But I mean, we're gonna have to see. Is this, you know, the end of the MCU Dark Age, or is it just more of the same? Who knows? As always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it yet for some reason. Corner video will lead to my game theory reaction, and yeah, with all that out of the way, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.